Thank you so much, Enrique, for taking your time out of your weekend to talk to us about your recovery, because I know anybody who's read your recovery in my book will know that it's really very inspiring. So maybe, should we go back to the beginning and just understand a little bit about what your life was like briefly before you developed symptoms, and then obviously moving on from there?
Sure. So at the time when I started to experience, pain in my wrist initially, was about 4 years into this job that was increasing in responsibility and was getting more stressful. And I was a new father at the time. I had just had, I believe, my second or my first child, and we had our second child, within a couple of years of the first. So there was a lot of changes going on at home too. And I started to experience some pain in my wrist, my right wrist, and I work in information technology. So using the keyboard and mouse was very important to me. At the time that this was going on, I had a boss that, was a very type A kind of personality, and I sort of felt that he was hard to please, in that a lot of times that I would, do the best job that I could do, and it still wasn't good enough. And I think I sort of internalized that. Thinking back now, but at the time I wasn't thinking along those lines. I just was dealing with the stress as best I could.
So quite a lot of responsibility there with home as well as work, because you were, I think from what you said, you were a sole breadwinner, 2 children, and there's a lot of pressure there as well, isn't there?
Absolutely. I wanted to make sure I was continuing to provide for the family. And like you said, my wife was not working, and it was a decision we had made a long time ago. And I was very proud of that. Once I started to feel the pain, and that started to have an impact on my ability to work, because it progressively got worse to the point where it wasn't just a nuisance, it was actually impacting my ability to do things,
So I know you obviously, you said you've gone through trying lots of different ergonomic things for the office. You saw a lot of therapists, doctors, you saw a surgeon. How long did it take you before you began to realize that you needed to go along a different approach?
And I went to the doctor, and he said, it's tendonitis, you just have to rest, take these pain pills, and eventually it'll go away. And the frustrating part about that was that I just spent 4 weeks resting, taking, pain pills and all that, and it's still the same, so very frustrating. And that's when I realized that I needed to find something else, and I turned to the internet to kind of see if I can find another approach.
So what were the main things that you did then to help you on your recovery?
Well, I had sort of a very quick recovery. So I know it's sometimes not typical, but for me, I immediately, once I heard about Dr. Sarno, and I read about a guy on this internet site who had very similar symptoms as me, recovered fairly quickly himself, I thought, well, maybe this is for me. So I bought the book Divided Mind. It's a really big book, but I was so ready to hear and absorb something new that I read it pretty quickly. Within a week, I think I had gone through most of the book. And then I started to actually feel different. Like because in the book, it really encourages you to introspect, and think about emotional causes and your life situation, and what could there be. And it was just so clear to me that it was my job situation primarily. I had a very difficult boss. I had a very difficult job, and all of that it was almost like an awakening. Like I just felt different.
Yeah.
Like I almost felt tingles in my back when I started to think about these things,
Yeah.
And then as soon as I felt this, as this being my problem, I really believed that it was. and I started to type again. And within that first week after reading the book, I was able to type much more than I ever had, and not experience the pain at the same level. So immediately I felt something different.
Yeah.
And over the next 3 weeks, that just got better and better. And after a full like 4 weeks or so, the pain was completely gone.
Wow. And it was that, and this is awful for people who read books and they believe that they're going to get better just like this. I know it's very hard if they're not recovering quickly, because it's very common for people to take a lot longer and to need to do a lot more and have more support and guidance. But it's also very exciting for people to realize just how effective this approach can be. So tell me, was it just from reading the book? Did you do any emotional awareness? Did you do any journaling? What sort of things did you do, if any?
I did, actually. You know, in the book, it's discussed, recommended to do some journaling and introspection. And I did some, but, you know, in a 4-week period of time, you know, I didn't do a tremendous amount. I still have the journal that I look back on once in a while that I wrote at that time. And it's probably only 4 pages of work.
Wow.
You know? But in those 4 pages, I wrote down probably 2 single space pages of all the things that were bothering me, stressing me out, you know, things that, and so I read through those now and I go, oh, no wonder, you know, it was just a lot of issues, you know, that I had to think through. And many of those things were the way I was reacting to the problems, not so much the problems themselves, but it was the way that I was reacting to them. You know, when I found out about TMS, I was about 38 years old. And as a youngster, I was very active, but in my 20s and 30s, I really reduced activity because of not just the hand pain. The hand pain started when I was 36 or 37, but I had other pain. I had back pain, I had leg pain, feet pain, like plantar fasciitis, and other things.
Okay, so you recognize that, yeah. And
I realized that those things were probably caused by emotional issues. So it opened up this sort of finding out about TMS and solving my hand problem so quickly. I realized that there was probably a lot more I could do physically, and I started to become more active, you know, in marathons and triathlons and things like that.
Pretty active.
Yeah, really active. Yeah, I mean, I could even say that there's been times I wake up in the morning and I'll have a neck pain, and you know that used to happen before as well. Before I learned about TMS, and I would think that I had slept wrong, and
pillow. God.
Right, that
stupid pillow that's been fine for months, and then suddenly it causes me a pain.
Right. And it's still, you know, and to this day, it still happens, you know, but I just handle it differently. I don't worry about it, you know, being a physical injury, and then it goes away, you know, and I focus more on, you know, what am I thinking about? What's going on at work? You know, what's going on at home?
Excellent. Excellent. And you're now, from what I understand, in a more challenging job as well. You've had a promotion, but now it's the way you handle what's happening in your life, from what you're saying.
Yeah, you know, there's ups and downs in the career and at home, but I've just learned, you know, it's life, right? And I've just learned to handle it differently. Yeah. Make time to have some silence in my life, and you know, I personally I pray, so that's a way for me to kind of you know, just kind of be with myself, be with my thoughts and so on.
Yes, yeah.
And think through things. So.
Well, it sounds fantastic, Enrique, and I'm really pleased that you took some time out for us to be able to share this as well. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it, and well done, and good luck moving forward as well.
Thank you.